Dick, could you just tell me how you first met Neil Foster?
Neil Foster. Very enterprising young man, Neil Foster. Well, he wrote to various actors and actresses. I think it was a production of Seagull he wanted to mount, and he wanted some money to mount it. And so he wrote to various of us, and I was one of the people he wrote to, and said, could I interview you in public? I'll find a theatre, and we'll charge people to come and hear me asking you questions, and it'll help me raise money for this project. And I thought it was a very good idea, as did many other actors and actresses. So I said, yes, fine, and we went and we did it. He raised his money, not only in this country, but also in America. Glenn Close, I think, Richard Dreyfuss, he interviewed, and got his money together and did his production very successfully, and then went on to the Rep, and is busily resuscitating it. And since it's where I began my professional career, I'm very much a supporter.
Right, I'll probably go over bits of that again.
All right.
But how was the interview? I mean, this was this young upstart of an actor interviewing a very eminent actor. How did it go? Was it?
It was fine. I mean, I didn't regard him as an upstart. Actors are actors, you know, whether you're beginning or you're practically ending. I mean, it's actors. No, I mean, it's a great thing, and I think actors don't have that kind of side to them, you know. You may have been in the profession a long time, you may have had a certain degree of success, but that doesn't make you snooty about those who are beginning. And the enterprise that he showed in actually, you know, writing to people who were well known in the business, I thought was very good. Why not support him? Because what he wanted to do was extremely laudable, and as events have proved, he has really put his money where his mouth is, and I think he's very good news. The interview itself was quite harmless. I'm like talking to you now. I'm not terribly good at interviews. I don't particularly enjoy them. That said, he made it quite painless. The questions were very good. They were very perceptive. Some of them were very amusing. He kind of peppered the program very well. He'd done a lot of homework about it, and he'd done a lot of homework on me, so that he knew where I came from, he knew about my career, etc. So he didn't make any boo-boos. He was great.
Was it the first time you'd ever been asked to do anything like this?
I think it was. And I think it's probably one of the reasons that all of us immediately said yes, because it seems such a very good idea. I've been asked since. I have actually done another one since then, another boy from drama school, who's still at drama school. Brian Blessed, Stephen Fry, and I did one afternoon at the Duke of York's to help him raise money to get through college.
How hard is it for actors to sort of make their way, very, especially these days?
Very, very. I mean, I'm not alone in constantly getting letters of about 4 or 5 a week, I suppose, from young students who are trying to work their way through drama school to pay the fees. The fees are enormous. There are very few grants given to them, and so they have taken in the last few years to writing to successful actors whom they assume are rich, because if you get 4 or 5 a week, you know, you can't give to all. I have given, I mean, someone like Tony Hopkins, who works in movies, therefore earns much more than somebody who works in theatre exclusively. Tony set up a foundation with his hard-earned money in order to do just that, for these kids to be able to apply to that foundation for grants, which is a wonderful thing. If I were wealthy, I think I would do the same.
Is there a danger that, because it's so expensive for young actors to make their way, that it's becoming the domain of the rich, and therefore we're possibly losing out on some natural talent?
Yes, it is becoming a bit exclusive in that sense. And I think the youngsters are hard put to it to find ways of getting the money. If there are no grants from local councils or whatever, they are very clever in finding ways of raising the money, and a lot of them do. But it's hard, and I'm sure there is the danger of talent slipping through the net, yes. But I think there's always, in a sense, been that. But if the talent is true, if the talent is real, and the fire in the belly is hot enough, they'll come through. I mean, they'll rise to the surface.
Terrific. How did you then? Why did you agree to become patron of the Birmingham Stage Company, and what does that involve?
Well, when you get to a certain stage in your career, where I am at the moment, you get asked to be patron many, many times, and I am patron to many organisations, some of whom it is for name only. You know, I mean, they say, will you come and be our patron? The duties won't be very onerous. We just really want your name on our letterhead. And that understood, I would say yes, and I will try to be more. I will try to do more than that. I will try to come, support, if I can. Sometimes it's not possible, and I really called a halt to it now, because it gets silly, because you can't spread yourself that thinly. But with Birmingham, of course, nostalgia with a capital N was the bottom line, because I started my professional career at Birmingham. I've been there for 3 years. It was my very first job after university, and it was like, and I hadn't been to drama school, you see, so it was like my drama school, everything to me. And we did, I think it was 3 weekly when I first went there, and then it became 4 weekly. So over the period of 3 years, I did a lot of work there, and I grew to love that theatre. And curious enough, I mean, you know it, it's not that big a theatre, but when I was there, it was as big as the London Palladium. And I remember going back years later to visit it, to see a play there and walk on the stage. And the stage was like a postage stamp, you know, but when I was there, it was just the centre of the acting universe. And that gave me my start, and from there, Sir Lawrence saw me playing Henry VIII and offered me a job at Chichester, and then I went to the National. And so Birmingham was really the springboard to it all, so I had a great affection for it, and I loved being there. I love the city. I know it gets knocked heavily. And I loved a little flat in Edgbaston, and it was 3 glorious years. It was wonderful, and that's really why when Neil said, will you come and be part of it? And I jumped at the chance, also because once when I'd gone back, you know, you sometimes should never go back on these things, but I remember the paint frame where they used to make all the sets and create them and paint them all was now a porno cinema. That was deeply distressing. And the theatre looked closed, it looked a bit poor, you know. I know the students, the drama school were using it, but it wasn't really functioning as it should. And Neil was about to revitalise its heart and pump more blood into it, and so I had no hesitation. And neither did Schofield, who is the co-patron, and also had a very eminent career early in his life at the Rep.
Well, many famous actors started at the Birmingham Rep.
Oh, indeed. I remember there was a story of Sir Lawrence and Sir Ralph Richardson going back there to see a young, aspiring actress called Margaret Leighton, whom they discovered there. And there was a little old lady who used to run the bar. And they were both sirs by then, and they came in and we went up for a drink at the bar, and she said, you two boys have done all right for yourself, haven't you? Not at all fazed by their titles and their grandeur. You know, it's wonderful. She was still there when I was there.
So it does your heart good to see it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes.
I'm going to take you on now, really, to the subject of regional theatre. One of the sort of, maybe it's a misconception, but the view that people have when you say regional theatre, they'll say, oh, regional theatre is in crisis. What would you say to this?
My current relation with the regional theatre is I do a lot of touring. Most years for the past 6 or 7 years, I think, I've toured. Plays from the RSC, or plays from the West End, or prior to the West End, etc. So I get to see regional theatre from the standpoint of not the repertoire system, but the big house in town. You know, not the Birmingham Rep, it will be the Alexandra Theatre when I'm opening in March in a play. And those theatres seem to be doing very well. I mean, lots of money have been spent. I'm thinking of places like Theatre Royal Newcastle, Lyceum Sheffield, the Alhambra, Bradford. Millions have been spent on them. They're smashing theatres. They've catered not only to the public, but also backstage to the actors. So we've got to look in. Some money's actually been spent on a dressing room at some of these theatres, and they seem to be flourishing. They seem to be open round the clock, so that people they're not kind of closed all day, and you can only go there from 7:30 on. They have a continual traffic with restaurants or coffee bars or bookstores or events going on in the foyers, and they seem to be very flourishing. The repertory system, I don't think is quite so flourishing. I mean, everything is bums on seats, of course. Everything is depends on the public going to see them. But when I was younger, the repertory system was still flourishing, and I don't think the young actors really have such a good chance of learning their craft now, because there are not so many opportunities.
Do you think the general public are aware, really, of the difference between the receiving theatres and the producing theatres, and how important the producing theatres are?
Yes, I'm sure they're not aware. I mean, I wouldn't think they would know those terms. They wouldn't understand those terms. A theatre, there's a play. Whether it started its life there, or whether that theatre is just housing it temporarily as it passes on. I don't think they even think in those terms. No, they go to see what they want to see, or what they've been told they should see.
Do you think they should be made more aware of that, so that they would then support the homegrown product?
Yes. I'm not quite sure how you appeal to their sense of what theatrical patriotism. I don't know how you tap into that, what it would require. Obviously, each theatre in each region has its captive audience, people who do support, people who go regularly and always have. I don't think that will ever change, thank goodness. I mean, there is still a large proportion. I mean, more people go to the theatre in this country than go to football matches, which is heartening for us actors. But I think you're right that it would be a good idea. I don't know that it would make that much difference, and whether you would acquire by that a new audience, whether they would go to the theatre thinking, not only am I going to see Joe Bloggs or to see this particular play and enjoy myself, but I'm also doing my bit for the theatre. I don't know if that is very fertile ground. I just don't know.
Do actors enjoy playing in the regions, or would they always prefer to be on a London stage?
Oh, no. I can only talk for myself, you know. I love touring. Over the years, I've toured all over the country, everywhere, and around the world, too, which has been one of the perks of the job, really. It has become more expensive to tour, both from the point of view of putting the plays on, touring sets. All the technical side of it has become much more expensive. And also for actors to live away from home. If they're resident in London, or wherever they're resident, and they go on tour, they've got to be away from home. They've got to sustain two households. Either you go into digs, or you go to a hotel, or you rent a little place somewhere. It is expensive. But it's exciting, too. It's a marvellous way of being part of a different environment, a different city. Not just as a visitor, not just as a tourist, but as part of the scene, as part of the fabric of that city for however short a period. You know, you go up to Edinburgh, you play the King's Theatre, and if the show's up and running, then you've got your days free to wander around, be part of that city, and in the evening, be even more a part of it, be part of the fabric of that city, and that's wonderful. That's a very good feeling.
Are there perceptible differences in the audiences around the country?
Barely perceptible, barely perceptible. If people like what you're doing, if people are involved in what you're doing up there on the stage, if their emotions and their head and their heart are engaged in it, then audiences really are the same. They're just they may have different accents, they may come from different classes, their backgrounds may be very, very different. their local traditions, their local cultures may be very different. But I think in a theatre, the experience is a universal experience. It's a human experience. So it doesn't really matter what you sound like or where you've been or where you've been brought up. What they're seeing, hopefully up there, is a sort of engaging, entertaining truth that touches and moves and at the same time enriches.
Now, many of the theatres, certainly in our region, which is East and West Midlands, have been working on a standstill budget for the last 2 or 3 years, which is causing them severe hardship, and some of them are having to close some of the smaller productions in their studios and things. I'm talking just about the producing houses now. How do actors feel about the possibility of losing some of the well-known producing theatres?
Oh, I mean, awful. I mean, it's a tragedy, and hopefully it's a position that can be in time turned round. Of course, it's like one of those problems that you have to throw money at, you know, if that's what is necessary. Of course, we all hope that the lottery would help enormously, but that's going on the buildings, that's not going on. So the problem with that may be, I don't know, is that all those millions will be put into making the theatres themselves wonderful, revitalised buildings, but you can't afford to put anything in them because you can't afford to pay the actors or mount the productions to actually put the product in this wonderful new multi-million-pound building. So it is difficult. It's a very difficult problem. I can't offer you a solution. I can only bewail and bemoan the fact that it is so, and hope that a future government might be more sensitive to the needs of an artistic community, which is so vital to the pulse of a nation. Governments sometimes, I think, go for the extremities and try to put a bandage on the finger, and the heart's failing.
What part do you think the Arts Council has played in this? Have they been supportive enough? Are they doing enough? Could they do a lot more?
They could always do more. Always do more. No, they never do enough, because the need for them is growing, and as the need grows, they have to grow. I mean, just to take it on from that, I'm in the process. This is the first time in my life I've done it, but I'm in the process of putting on another hat, and I'm artistic director of Chichester this year. So I'm in the process of, with Duncan Weldon, of getting together a season of 10 plays over 6 months, which is the summer season at Chichester. Now, it's the idea is to make Chichester a producing house, a year-round producing house. Now, we have no subsidy, we have no sponsorship, so that makes the parameters of what we have to offer the public that much more circumspect. There is, to an extent, a captive audience for that theatre. The problem is that the audience, to an extent, dictates what you offer them. Hopefully, in time, one may be able to slip in just a little bit of something that they weren't expecting on the menu, and they find they like the taste of, you know. But it's very difficult because we exist totally on the box office. If people don't pay to come, then we can't continue because, as I say, there's no financial support whatever, really, or very, 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 very little. It's not worth talking about.
And the Arts Council also have not really had a drama policy, and they're hoping with this green paper that's about to be published, hopefully March, April sometime, that they are actually going to have a drama policy for the first time. How important do you think?
I think that's very important. I mean,
sorry, can I make you start that clean so you're not crossing over me? That's all right. So how important do you think it is for the Arts Council to have a drama policy?
I think it's very important. I think the Arts Minister seems to change so regularly. We have a different one kind of every week. It's like a kind of political sinecure, you know, and it's badly in need of a policy and someone who is committed to that policy rather than, oh, this week I'm Arts Minister, next week I'm going to look after the hospitals, then I'm going to do this and that. You know, I mean, the changeover is so rapid that you can't get any kind of continuum at all, and that's what you need.
would Britain be like if there weren't any producing houses around the regions and that they were all receiving houses, just receiving touring plays that generated from
Someone would have to produce. I mean, they have to produce somewhere, wouldn't they? I don't... What exactly do you mean?
Well, if they're not going to fund the regional theatres properly, some of them are inevitably going to have to close. How will that change the face of theatre in the country?
Well, it will certainly change the opportunities. It will lessen the opportunities for learning for future generations of actors, certainly. And that is a very, very serious problem, just speaking as an actor. Young actors have got to find somewhere to get experience. You don't get it sitting by a telephone waiting for Carlton Television to phone and say, come and do X in X. That's not a way to learn your craft. At the moment, I've just been auditioning for Chichester, the company at Chichester, and it's amazing how when the young actors come along and they do their modern piece, they seem fairly at home. You know, they're within the confines of a terrifying audition. They're quite relaxed. They can speak. They can breathe. They're fine. The moment they get up and do their classical, their Shakespeare, catatonic. Hands become rigid. The body goes into spasm, and they seem to lack all imagination. I'm being very generalized now, but there have been so many like that something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong with the system that they cannot actually, they don't seem to be able to fulfill the function of being able to make accessible and understandable some of the greatest work, dramatic work that this country has produced. They can only learn that in the various places, as I learned it. I mean, my 3 years at Birmingham, and we did everything. I did everything from Jimmy Porter to Henry VIII. You make terrible mistakes, but it's all live. It's in front of an audience. It's a great learning experience. And if these theatres go, and if the theatres are only filled with Australian soap stars who come over and do a show and they tour it around, well then, what price English theatre and English actors 20 years hence?
That's a very good answer. We've got one of the few national companies in our region, obviously the Royal Shakespeare Company. How important is it to have that and to maintain it? Because it is a colossal cost.
Colossal. Oh, I think it's vital. I think it's absolutely vital. I speak from the point of view of actually loving to work at Stratford and work in that theatre. It has got such a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere and tradition and history about it. And you know, to be doing Shakespeare in Stratford is a buzz in itself. You know, oh no, I mean that would be a tragedy if that were ever not there. The marvellous thing about the RSC is the way it has expanded into the Swan, into the other place, and then the Pit and the Barbican. And it's a huge, I mean, monolithic giant of an organisation. But it survives, and it not only survives, it flourishes. Of course, it eats up the money. There's what, 8 million or 11 million subsidy. And needs and wants more. I do think one of my bugbears is that I think those organisations that do get a lot of money have to say, as an actor's knowledge of what goes on, they waste it. They waste a lot of it. They waste a lot of it. I have been dressed head to foot in suede that from 10 rows back could be Hessian. You wouldn't know the difference. But we all know it's suede. We all know I sweat when I perform. It's difficult to clean suede. So they have to make two. They both get sweated into. They both don't survive the course. The clothes are made of real silks and things because they fall well. But the theatre is about illusion. I think a lot of and pretend and imagination. And I think a lot of money, I have to say it, is from the design point of view, is wasted, because if a design doesn't work or a costume doesn't work, it's out, it's thrown out. Do it again, get another thing. That bit of, that floor doesn't work, get rid of the floor. Regardless of the fact that it's cost thousands of pounds. A friend of mine was at the National recently. This might all be libelous, I don't know.
I'll check it, don't worry.
But it was a very good set, but the set was picture frames, huge picture frames, gilded picture frames. And they've been gilded with real gold leaf. Now, come on. That's just that's a criminal waste of money.
Do you think that the theatre is still largely the domain of white middle class?
To an extent, yes. And I don't think that's wholly the theatre's fault, because I don't think what the theatre offers is class-ridden or exclusive in any way. I think it's how the public is brought up to perceive the theatre as, and to an extent, being elitist. You have to be quite brainy to go to understand. And often it starts very early in life when you know, you go to your first Shakespeare with your teacher and you loathe every moment of it and you can't understand a word they're doing, and it puts you off theatre for life. It's very important, those early days so when you have those children's matinees, which kind of actors dread, of course. The other side of it is to think that there may be one kid out there for whom this is going to change their life, and you know, you're going to hook them. The rest, maybe not. Maybe two, maybe three, but one, if you're lucky, will be hooked for life. And irrespective of whatever class he comes from, will become a theatre lover. I think because of the expense of it, you know, VAT on theatre tickets. Please, only they take that off. It is expensive. Nowadays, there is so much television, there is so much drama fed into your living room. Why dress, get the car out, book a restaurant, worry about a car park, get the tickets, spend all that money, and make all that effort when you can switch the telly on and see it in the corner of your room, you know, so that the people who come to the theatre really want to be there. And that also, that money and that effort that requires, I think there is a certain group of people that are more prepared to make that effort and have that money to spend.
Okay, commercial time. I mean, you've just told us very good reasons why you shouldn't go to the theatre. You know, tell me why you should go to the theatre. What do you get from it that you won't get anywhere else?
Well, of course you get an electric buzz that is totally unique. What goes on the stage, and the communion between an actor and his audience. Although the play is the same, although he's saying the same words and doing the same actions, is totally different every night. It's a journey that you both go on. Okay, he knows where the journey is going to end. He knows what's going to happen. But curiously, a group of people sitting out here do actually engender an electric charge which has a very potent effect on exactly how the actor responds. So it is a communion, it is different every night, and it's something that you cannot get in front of a camera. Certainly an actor's job satisfaction is hugely more in a theatre, because he's making the choices, because there are no safety nets. If you forget your lines or you fall over the permanent check, 1,000 people see you do it in a film studio or a television studio. You go back and do it again. You edit, as you're going to edit this interview. You cut out what you don't want. You put a bit of music behind it. You can put somebody else's voice coming out of my mouth. You can alter my timing, my rhythm, my harmony, everything, and present me as you want me to be presented. They say the camera never lies. I think it lies all the time. But the theatre doesn't lie, because you're all down here and we're all up there, and whatever is happening, we're all part of it, and that's really special. It's a feeling you really can't get anywhere else. And it's a wonderful if an actor on a stage actually has the ability to engage you so much that you forget where you are, and you are totally an emotion. You are crying, you are laughing, you are...
Now, Neil is doing a wonderful job, really, against the odds, because he's running that company and is totally reliant on box office takings. Do you think this is right? Shouldn't he be getting some sort of subsidy?
Yes, of course he should. Of course he should. I mean, there is, I'm sure, somewhere down the road, a cut-off point. You can give this project all your enthusiasm, all your love, all your energies, but as in anything in life, ultimately, you can't do that forever. There comes a point when you just need a support. You just need to be able to have that cushion, that moment that when you can relax your grip just slightly and know that the machine is still running smoothly, and for that he needs support, and that is financial support, and that is, I mean, he gets a lot of encouragement, fortunately, verbal encouragement, and a lot of people go and see the shows. They're very successful. The newspapers are usually very nice about him, and even when they don't like some of the things, they're still very supportive, because I think everybody wants that theatre to work. And it's a very difficult position he's in, because he's got the big new rep down the road. He's got the Alexandra Theatre, so the product that he is offering has got to be something that the other two venues aren't offering, and something that is unique and special. And so far he's been able to do that. He's tapped into something. He's a very clever, cultured young guy, and he knows also he's got a managerial, entrepreneurial flair, which is very, very useful to him. But he can't go on forever doing it on his own like that. Yes, and I think he deserves support. I mean, the tradition of that building alone, when you think of what that building has housed, the kind of the cream of English theatre has passed through that building, both dramatists and performers and directors. They've all been there, and that tradition is something that we throw away and do not support at our peril.
But you've talked about waste in theatre as you perceive it, just mentioning the RSC. Is it not really a scandal that the Arts Council are not supporting people like Neil at all?
Yes, I would absolutely agree. It is a scandal. Because what does he have to do to prove? I mean, what more can he prove? He's created a viable theatre from nothing, from his own efforts, his own vision. He has peopled it, not only with the product that the actors and the directors and the dramatists bring, but he's filled it with the paying public. What more can he do to earn approval and support from the Arts Council, whose job it is to do that very thing? Yes, I agree, it is a scandal.
Do you think they sort of cop out on their responsibilities a bit, that it's too easy to support the big names and the big theatres and actually forget the people that are the next generation?
Yes. I think that may be part of the fact that we were talking earlier about the lack of a far-seeing policy, that the theatre is still growing, will forever grow. The lifespan of the current theatrical scene is limited, and so the new wave come, and that needs planning for, that needs nurturing. You know, it's like any greenhouse. You've got to plant your seedlings, and in order to put them out in the garden and have the wonderful plants. Without that, it'll all dry up, it'll all wither.
What would you say your biggest frustration is at working in the theatre?
Well, at the moment, in all honesty, as so-called artistic director of Chichester, it's having to fundraise. The amount of energy that is spent on chatting up the right people in order to loosen their purse strings, when I'd much rather be learning my lines and getting into my Hessian frock and strutting my stuff on the stage, you know, and also organising what's going to be happening, but to actually, you know, to constantly to be beholden to people. And when you there was a guy at dinner last night whose name happened to be Rothschild, and 6 pairs of eyes went to this gentleman because, you know, we're all in the theatre and, oh, he's a Rothschild. And so he became the centre of attention, all for quite the wrong reasons, you know, but it makes you do that.